Chapter 4. Viti Sangaha. Essay 1. Chittupadanam mitchevang katva sangaham muttaram. Pumi pugala bhedena pubba paraniyamitam. Pawapti sangaham nama panchisandi pawaptiyam. Pawakkama samasena yata sambhavato katam. Essay 2. Cha vatuni, cha dwarani, cha alambanani, cha vinyanani, cha vitiyo, cha da visayapavatti chati, viti samgahe cha chakani vedi tabbani. Viti muttanam panakamma kamma nimitta gatti nimitta vasena tivida hoti visayapavatti. Tatha vattu dwara lambanani pubbe vuttanaye naeva. Chakku vinyanam, sota vinyanam, ghana vinyanam, jiwha vinyanam, kaya vinyanam, cha mano vinyanam chati cha vinyanani. Vitiyo pana chakku dwara viti, sota dwara viti, ghana dwara viti, jiwha dwara viti, kaya dwara viti, mano dwara viti chati dwara vasena va, chakku vinyana viti, sota vinyana viti, ghana vinyana viti, jiwha vinyana viti, kaya vinyana viti, mano vinyana viti chati vinyana vasena va. Dwara pavatta chitta pavatti yo jetabbani. Essay 3. Ati mahantam parittam ati parittam chati panchadware manodware vibhutam avibhutam chati shada visayapavatti veditabha. Katang upadititi bhangavasena kanattayam eka chitta kanam nama. Tani satarassa chitta kanani rupa dharmanam ayu. Eka chitta kanati tani va, bahu chitta kanati tani va, titi pattana eva pancha lambanani pancha dware apatamagachanti. Tasma yadi eka chitta kanati katam rupa lambanam chakku samapatam magachanti tato dvikattum bhavanga chalite bhavanga sotam vachinditva tameva rupa lambanam avejjantam panchadwara avejjana chittam utpajjitva nirujjiti. Tato tassa anantaram tameva rupam passantam chakku vinyanam sampatichantam sampatichana chittam santirayantam santirana chittam vathappanantam vathappana chittam chati yatakramam utpajjitva nirujjanti. Tato param ekunatim sakakama vajana vajanesu yankinchi laddha pachayam ye bhuyana satte kattum javati. Javananu bandhane cha dvetadaarambhana pakani yatharaham pravattanti. Tato param bhavanga pato. Ettavatta chaudasa chittu padanam dve bhavanga chalanani pubbe vatitakam eka chitta kanamti katva sattarassa chitta kanani paripurenti. Tato param nirujjiti alambanametam atimahantam nama gocharam. Yava tada lambunu padakana appahontamati takamapatam magachantam alambanam mahantam nama. Tatha javanavasane bhavangapato vahoti nati tadalambanu pado. Yava javano padapi appahontamati takamapatam magachantam alambanam parittam nama. Tatha javanampi anupajjitva dvitikattum mottappanam eva pavattati. Tato param bhavangapato vahoti. Vutthappana vada panchana pana appahontamati takamapatam magachantam niroda sannam alambanam atiparitam nama. Tattha bhavanga chalanameva hoti nati viti chittupado. Iche vanchakku dware tatha sota dwaradisu chati sabbhathapi pancha dware tadalam bhanajavana vuttapana mogha varanam chatunnam varanam yathakramang arambhana bhuta visayaphavati chatudha veditabba.
Javana vuttapana moghavara sankharanang chatunnang varanang yathakkamang arammana bhuta visayappavatti chatudha vedatabba. Section 4. Viti chittani satteva chittutpada chaturdasa chatupanyasa vitthara panchadware yatharahang ayamittha panchadware viti chittappavattinayo. The analysis of thought processes, 5 sense door thought process. Introductory. Section 1. Having thus completed the noble compendium of consciousness and its concomitants with respect to feelings, etc., I shall briefly describe in due order the compendium of thought processes both at rebirth and in lifetime, according to the planes and individuals, and as they are determined by what that precedes and by what that follows. Notes. 1. In the preceding chapter, states of consciousness and mental concomitants were treated according to feelings, roots, etc. In the present one, the author deals with the thought processes as they arise through the mind and the other 5 senses, according to the different kinds of individuals and planes of existence. The Pali phrase, pubbha paranyamitam, needs an explanation. The commentary explains it thus: this chitta arises after so many chittas, and so many chittas follow this chitta, idam etakehi parang, imassa anantarang, etakani chittani. Panisandhi here refers to the initial thought process that occurs at the moment of conception in a new birth. Pavatti refers to all thought processes that occur during the course of one's lifetime. The translation of these 2 verses appears in the Compendium of Philosophy as follows. This further summary of genesis, of thought now having made, I will go on to speak concisely, summing up again, processes of the mind in birth and life, by order due the after, the before, distinguishing both person and life plane. Thought processes. Section 2. In the compendium of thought processes, 6 kinds of 6 classes each should be understood, namely I, 6 bases, 2, 6 doors, 3, 6 objects, 4, 6-fold consciousness, 5, 6 processes, and 6, 6-fold presentation of objects. These first 3 classes have already been discussed in the previous chapter. They are merely repeated here to complete the 6 groups. The presentation of objects to the process-free consciousness, namely kamma, kamma sign, and destiny sign, is threefold. The basis, doors, and objects therein are as described before. The 6-fold types of consciousness are eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. According to the doors, the thought processes are 1. The process connected with the eye door, 2. The process connected with the ear door, 3. The process connected with the nose door, 4. The process connected with the tongue door, 5. The process connected with the body door, and 6. The process connected with the mind door. Or, according to consciousness, the thought processes are 1. The process connected with the eye consciousness, 2. The process connected with the ear consciousness, 3. The process connected with the nose consciousness, 4. The process connected with the tongue consciousness, 5. The process connected with the body consciousness, and 6. The process connected with the mind consciousness. Thus, the thought procedure connected with the doors should be coordinated. Section 3. The 6-fold presentation of objects should be understood as follows. A. At the 5 sense doors. 1. Very great. 2. Great. 3. Slight. 4. Very slight. B. At the mind door. 5. Clear. 6. Obscure. How is the intensity of objects determined? The 3 instants such as genesis, static or development constitute one thought moment. The duration of material things consists of 17 such thought moments. The 5 sense objects enter the avenue of 5 sense doors at the static stage when one or several thought moments have passed. Hence, the thought process runs as follows. Suppose a visible object which has passed 1 instant and enters the avenue of I, then the Bhavagandha consciousness vibrates for 1 moment and perishes, 1 IA, and perishes
2. Phi, arresting the Bhavagandha stream. Subsequently, the 5-door apprehending consciousness. 4. Arises and ceases apprehending that very visual object. Thereafter, the following thought moments arise and cease in order. 5. Eye consciousness seeing that very form. 6. Recipient consciousness receiving it. 7. Investigating consciousness investigating it.
Avibhata panalambane javanavasane pavainga pato vahoti nati tadalambana upadoti. Section 6. Viti chittani taneva chittupada daserita vitare napane te kachatana samvibhavaye ayam etta paritta javana varo. In the mind door, when a clear object enters that avenue, retentive resultants take place at the end of the bhavainga vibrations, mind door apprehending consciousness, and javanas. After that, there is subsidence into bhavainga. In the case of an obscure object, there is subsidence into bhavainga at the end of the javanas without giving rise to the retentive resultants. Section 6. 3 modes and 10 different types of consciousness in the thought process are told. It will be explained that, in detail, there are 41 kinds here. Herein, this is the section of the minor javana procedure. Appana, viti chittapavatinayo. 41 ancestored manners of conscious works at process. In that case, there is merely a vibration of the bhavalabhanga, but no genesis of a thought process. As in the eye door, so it is in the ear door, etc. In all 5 doors, the fourfold presentation of objects should be understood is due order in the 4 ways known as 1. The course ending with retention. 2. The course ending with javana. 3. The course ending with determining, and 4. The futile course. Paragraph 4. There are 7 modes, 96, and 14 different types of consciousness in the thought process. In detail, there are accordingly 54 in the 5 doors. Herein, this is the method of thought process in the 5 sense doors. Notes. 2. Vaita is derived from v plus to go. This term means a way or street, but here it is used in the sense of process, parampara. A thought process consists of several thought moments, and a thought moment is never called a chitta vaita. 3. Visaya pravati. The commentarial explanation is the presentation of objects at the doors, or the genesis of consciousness on the presentation of such objects. Visayanam dwaresu, visayesu cha chitanam pavati. The author evidently prefers the first explanation. 4. Thought processes. According to Abhidhamma, ordinarily there is no moment when we do not experience a particular kind of consciousness hanging on to some object, whether physical or mental. The time limit of such a consciousness is termed one thought moment. The rapidity of the succession of such thought moments is hardly conceivable by the ken of human knowledge. Books state that within the brief duration of a flash of lightning, or in the twinkling of an eye, billions of thought moments may arise and perish. Each thought moment consists of 3 minor instants, khanas. They are upada, or arising or genesis, sthiti, or static or development, and bhanga, or cessation or dissolution. Birth, decay, and death correspond to these 3 states. The interval between birth and death is regarded as decay. Immediately after the cessation stage of a thought moment, there results the genesis stage of the subsequent thought moment. Thus, each unit of consciousness perishes, conditioning another, transmitting at the same time all its potentialities to its successor. There is therefore a continuous flow of consciousness like a stream without interruption.
When a material object enters the consciousness through one of the 5 sense doors, a thought process occurs, consisting of a series of separate thought moments leading one to the other in a particular uniform order. This order is known as the Citta Niyama, psychic order. As a rule, for a complete perception of a physical object through one of the sense doors, precisely 17 thought moments must pass. As such, the time duration of matter is fixed at 17 thought moments. After the expiration of that time limit, one fundamental unit of matter perishes, giving birth to another unit. The first moment is regarded as the genesis, upada, the last as dissolution, bhanga, and the interval, 15 moments, as decay or development, sthiti or jara. As a rule, when an object enters the consciousness through any of the doors, one moment of the life continuum elapses. This is known as atita pavanga. Then, the corresponding thought process runs uninterruptedly for 16 thought moments. The object thus presented is regarded as very great. If the thought process ceases at the expiration of the jhavanas without giving rise to 2 retentive moments, tadalambanam, thus completing only 14 moments, then the object is called great. Sometimes the thought process ceases at the moment of determining, votapanam, without giving rise to the jhavanas, completing only 7 moments.
Section 7. In the ecstatic jhavana procedure, there is no distinction between clear and obscure. Likewise, there is no arising of retentive resultants. In this case, any one of the 8 sense-sphere jhavanas, accompanied by knowledge, arise in due order 4 times or thrice, as preparation, approximation, adaptation, and sublimation, gotrabhu. Immediately after they cease, in the 4th or 5th instant, as the case may be, any one of the jhavanas, amongst the 26 sublime and supramundan classes, descends into ecstatic process in accordance with the appropriate effort. Here, immediately after a pleasurable jhavana, an ecstatic jhavana is to be expected. After a jhavana accompanied by equanimity, an ecstatic jhavana accompanied by equanimity is to be expected. Here, too, a moral jhavana is followed by a moral jhavana, and, in the case of attainment, samapatti, it gives rise to 3 lower fruits. A functional jhavana is followed by a functional jhavana and the fruit of arahanship. Section 8. After tihetuka, pleasurable meritorious thoughts, arise 32 classes of consciousness. After tihetuka, meritorious thoughts, accompanied by equanimity, 12 classes of consciousness. After tihetuka, pleasurable functional thoughts, 8 classes of consciousness. And after tihetuka, functional thoughts, accompanied by equanimity, 6 classes of consciousness. To the worldlings and sekkhas, ecstasy results after tihetuka sense-sphere meritorious thoughts, but to the lustless 101 after tihetuka sense-sphere functional thoughts. Herein, this is the method of thought processes with respect to mind door. Notes. 5. Apana, Sanskrit, apana, derived from square root re, to go. This is a rare Pali term found in Abhidhamma. It is derived from the root I, to go. Square root I plus the causal suffix ape plus ana. A is substituted for I and P is duplicated. Square root A plus PPE plus ana. The initial square root A is shortened before double P. Very thin mother PPNA. Venerable Buddha defines apana as the directing or fixing of the one-pointed consciousness on an object. Apana is a highly developed form of vitakka, initial application of the mind, one of the jhana factors.
The aspirant who wishes to develop jhanas takes for his object a suitable subject according to his temperament. In the course of his meditations, as mentioned in the first chapter, he arrives at a stage when he would be able to experience the first jhanic ecstasy. Then a thought process runs as follows: manodvarajana, parikama, upachara, anuloma, gotrabhu, apana. The first is the mind door consciousness, which precedes the jhavana stage, conditioned by objects that enter the avenue of consciousness. The initial thought moment of the apana jhavana process is termed parikama because it is a preparation for the desired higher consciousness, whether sublime, mahagata, or supramundane, lokutara. This is followed by another thought moment, known as upachara, because it arises in proximity to the higher consciousness. Ordinarily, these two thought moments arise at the beginning of the apana jhavana process. But if the person is morally advanced, only upachara moment arises without the initial parikama moment. The third thought moment is known as anuloma, because it arises in harmony with the preceding thought moments and the following gotrabhu thought moment. Gotrabhu literally means that which overcomes the sense sphere lineage, or that which develops the sublime or exalted lineage. Immediately after this gotrabhu thought moment arises the apana jhavana thought moment. Absolute one-pointedness of the mind is gained at this advanced stage of mental development. The fully undeveloped jhana present in the preliminary thought moments is known as upachara samadhi, access ecstasy. To a worldling and a sikha, one of the four kamavachara moral jhavanas, accompanied by knowledge, arises as these preliminary apana thought moments. In the case of an aseka, it is one of the four kamavachara functional jhavanas, accompanied by knowledge. The supramundane apana jhavana process occurs as follows: 1. Parikama, 2. Upachara, 3. Anuloma, 4. Gotrabhu, 5. Magga, 6. Pala, and 7. Pala. In this thought process, parikama may or may not proceed. As stated above, it depends on the moral advancement of the person. Here, gotrabhu means that which overcomes the lineage of the worldling, or that which develops the supramundane lineage. One of the four kamavachara moral jhavanas, accompanied by knowledge, arises in these preliminary stages. The object of the first three thought moments is mundane, but the object of the gotrabhu is supramundane, Nibbàna. Nevertheless, this developed thought moment is incapable of eradicating the innate defilements. It is the magga, path consciousness, that immediately follows, performs the double function of intuiting nirvana and of eradicating the defilements. It should be noted that the path consciousness occurs only once. This is immediately followed by 2 moments of phala, fruit consciousness, if parikama is present. Otherwise, there will be 3 phala thought moments. In the case of the second, third, fourth stages of sainthood, the fourth thought moment is named vedana, which means purification, instead of gotrabha. If the parikama thought moment proceeds, vodana thought moment arises as the fourth, otherwise as the third. Each of the 4 supramundane paths arises only once in the course of one's life. But one may experience the fruit consciousness even for a whole day continuously. The 3 lower fruits, sotapatti, sakadagami, and anagami, are preceded by a moral jhavana. When one enjoys the fruit of arahantship, the jhavanas that immediately precede must be functionals, because an arahant, being an aseka, does not experience moral jhavanas. 6. Tihetuka, conditioned by 3 hetus: alobha, generosity; adosa, goodwill; and amoha, wisdom. 7. Viz. 2 types of kamavachara consciousness accompanied by pleasure and knowledge. 8. Namely, the first 4 rupabjanas and 28, 7 times 4, lokutara jhanas. The arahant fruit and functionals are excluded. 9. Namely, 1 fifth rupabjana plus 4 arupabjana plus 1 fifth arahant palabjana. 11. Namely, 1 fifth rupabjana plus 4 arupabjana plus 1 fifth arahant palabjana.
तमनन्तरित्वा भवङ्गपातो वा होति इतिपि वदन्ति आचर्या तथा कामावचर जवनावसाने कामावचर सत्तानं कामावचर धम्मेष्वेव आरम्मण भूतेषु तदारम्मणम् इच्छन्ति अयमित्थ तदारम्मण नियमो कामे जवन सत्तारम्मणानं नियमे सति विभूते महन्ते च तदारम्मणम् ईरितम् अयमित्थ तदारम्मण नियमो. The procedure of retention. Here, under all circumstances, that is in both sense door and mind door, when an object is undesirable, the 5 sense impressions, reception, investigation, retention, that arise are immoral resultants. If desirable, they are moral resultants. If the object is extremely desirable, investigation and retention are accompanied by pleasure. In this connection, at the end of functional javanas accompanied by pleasure, there arise retentive thought moments also accompanied by pleasure. At the end of functional javanas accompanied by equanimity, the retentive thought moments are also accompanied by equanimity. But at the end of javanas accompanied by displeasure, the retentive thought moments and bhavangas are also accompanied by indifference. Hence, to one whose rebirth consciousness is accompanied by pleasure, at the end of javanas accompanied by displeasure, retentive thought moments do not arise.
Then there arises an investigating consciousness, accompanied by indifference, hanging on to some sense object with which one is familiar before. Immediately after, the teachers say there is subsidence into the life continuum. Likewise, they expect retention at the end of sense-sphere jhavanas to the sense-sphere beings only when sense-sphere phenomena become objects. Section 10. Retention occurs, they say, in connection with clear and very great objects when there is certainty as regards the sense-sphere jhavanas, beings, and objects. Herein, this is the procedure of retention. Notes. 12. Objects. The desirability or undesirability of an object is determined not according to individual temperament, but according to its intrinsic nature. The resultant consciousness conditioned thereby is regarded as the effect of one's good or bad action. The sight of the Buddha will perhaps be repulsive to a staunch heretic. His jhavana thoughts will naturally be unwholesome, but the passive wholesome resultant I consciousness caused by a past good karma is a kusala vipaka. This vipaka is not conditioned by his will, but is an inevitable consequence. The jhavana process, on the contrary, is conditioned by his own will. Again, for instance, the mere sight of excreta will be a source of delight to an ordinary dog. The object is generally undesirable and is a bad effect, a kusala vipaka, but the jhavana process caused thereby will be wholesome to the dog. The accompanying feeling will also be pleasurable. Although even an arahant experiences an akusala vipaka at the sight of an undesirable object, his jhavana process will neither be wholesome nor unwholesome. The accompanying feeling will be one of equanimity. Now, when an undesirable object is presented, either through the mind door or 5 sense doors, the sense impressions, reception, investigation, retention that occur in the respective thought processes are all bad effects, akusala vipakas. The accompanying feeling is invariably upekkha, except in the case of body impression, which is dukkha. These thought moments are the inevitable results of past bad actions. If the presented object is desirable, then the aforesaid thought moments are all good effects, kusala vipakas. Here too the accompanying feeling is upekkha, except in the case of body impression, which is sukha. All these thought moments are the results of past good actions. When the object is extremely desirable, the feeling of the santarana moment differs. Instead of upekkha, it is somanassa. The tadaramanas followed by sense sphere functional jhavanas, accompanied by pleasure, are also associated with a similar feeling. Likewise, the upekkha jhavanas are followed by upekkha tadaramnas. As a rule, the preceding jhavanas and the subsequent tadaramnas possess a similar feeling. Somanassa is followed by somanassa, and upekkha by upekkha. What happens when the jhavanas are accompanied by domanassa, as there are no domanassa tadaramnas? If the rebirth consciousness, bachindisita, of the person is accompanied by somanassa, then there will be no tadaramnas, as the bhavanga that immediately follows is also accompanied by somanassa. In that case, an adventitious upekkha santirana, without any special function, merely intervenes for one moment. This adventitious thought moment is technically termed agantuka bhavanga. Usually the object of the jhavanas and that of the tadaramnas are identical, but in this particular case the objects differ. The object of this santarana is another kama-vachara object with which one is familiar in the course of one's life. This object is termed parita, smaller or lesser, in comparison with the higher rupa, arupa, and lokutara objects. If, on the other hand, the rebirth consciousness is not associated with somanassa, then the tadaramnasa become upekkha, as are the bhavangas that follow. It should be noted that tadaramnasa occur only at the end of kama-vachara jhavanas, only to kama-vachara beings, and only in connection with kama-vachara objects, which are either very intense or clear.
Javana niyamo 11. Javanesucha paritajjavanavatiyang kamavacha rajavanani sattakhattung chakkhattung meva va javante mandappavattiyang pana maranakaladishu panchavarang meva bhagavatopana yamakappatiharika kaladishu lahukappavattiyang chattari panchava paccevekshana chittani bhavanti tipi vadanti adikammikassapana pathamakappanayang mahaggata javanani abhignya javanani cha sabbadapi ekavarang meva javanti tatoparang bhavangapato chattaropana maggupada ekachittakhanika tatoparang dvetini phalachittani yatharaham uppajjanti tatoparang bhavangapato nirodha samapatti kale dvikhattung chaturtha rupajjavanang javati tatoparang nirodhang phusati usthana kale cha anagami phalang va arahatta phalang va yatharaham mekavarang uppajjitva niruddhe bhavangapato vahoti sabbathapi samapatti vithiyangpana bhavanga soteveya vithiniyamo nathityakatva bahuni pilabhantiti veditabbam.
Sattakhattu parittani maggabhittha sakimmata avasesani labhyanti javanani bahoniyapi. Ayametha javananiyamo. Procedure of javana 13. Amongst the javanas, in a minor javana process, the sense sphere javanas run only for 7 or 6 times. But in the case of a feeble process and at the time of dying etc., only 5 times. To the exalted one, at the time of the twin psychic phenomenon and the like, when the procedure is alert, only 4 or 5 reflective thought moments arise, they say. To the beginner, during the first ecstasy, the sublime javanas and super-intellect javanas run only once at all times. Subsequently, there is subsidence into the life continuum. The arising of 4 parts endures only for 1 thought moment. Thereafter, 2 or 3 fruit thought moments arise accordingly. Then comes subsidence into the life continuum. At the time of supreme cessation, the 4th arupa javana runs twice and then contact cessation. When emerging, either anagami fruit consciousness or arahatta fruit consciousness arise accordingly. When it ceases, there is subsidence into the continuum. In the process of attainments, there is no regularity of thought processes as in the stream of life continuum.
Nevertheless, it should be understood that many sublime and supramundane javanas take place. Both psychologically and ethically, javana thought moments are the most important, as both good and evil are determined at this stage. Sometimes, the javanas last only for 1 moment. At times, they may continue for 7 moments the most. Kamavachara javanas, as a rule, last only for 6 or 7 moments. When one is in a senseless state or is about to die, javanas are confined to 5 moments. When the Buddha, by his psychic powers, emits fire and water almost simultaneously from his body, only 4 or 5 jhana thought moments arise, so as to reflect on the jhana factors, which is a prerequisite for the performance of this twin psychic phenomenon. In the case of a yogi who develops the first jhana for the first time, jhana lasts only for 1 moment. Nevertheless, it should be understood that many sublime and supramundane jhanas take place. Both psychologically and ethically, jhana thought moments are the most important, as both good and evil are determined at this stage. Sometimes, the jhanas last only for 1 moment. At times, they may continue for 7 moments the most. Kamavachara jhanas, as a rule, last only for 6 or 7 moments. When one is in a senseless state or is about to die, jhanas are confined to 5 moments. When the Buddha, by his psychic powers, emits fire and water almost simultaneously from his body, only 4 or 5 jhana thought moments arise, so as to reflect on the jhana factors, which is a prerequisite for the performance of this twin psychic phenomenon. In the case of a yogi who develops the first jhana for the first time, jhana lasts only for 1 moment.
So is it with those who develop the 5 apiññas, namely, first, psychic powers, iridvida; second, celestial ear, dibbasota; third, celestial eye, dibbakaku; fourth, reading of others' thoughts, paracitta vijnana; and 5, reminiscence of previous births, pubernivasanusati jhana. The 4 classes of supramundane jhavana path consciousness also last for 1 moment only. It is at this great moment that Nibbàna is intuited. 14. Nirodha Samapatti. An anagami, or an arahant, who has developed the rupa and arupa jhanas, could, by willpower, temporarily arrest the ordinary flow of consciousness even for 7 days continuously. When one attains to this state, all mental activities cease, although there exists heat and life devoid of any breathing. The difference between a corpse and one in this state is that the latter possesses life. Books state that his body cannot be harmed too. The attainment to such an ecstatic state is known as Nirodha Samapatti. Nirodha means cessation, and samapatti is attainment. Immediately prior to the attainment of this state, he experiences for 2 moments the 4th arupa jhana, state of neither perception nor non-perception. The flow of consciousness then ceases until he emerges therefrom as determined by him. As a rule, he remains in this state for about a week. Motionless, he abides in this ecstasy. Books relate an incident of a Pacceka Buddha whose body was set fire to while in this state, but he was not affected thereby. Now, when he emerges from this state, the first thought moment to arise is an anagami fruit consciousness, in the case of an anagami, or an arahant fruit consciousness, in the case of an arahant.
Thereafter, the stream of consciousness subsides into bhavanga. Pugala Bedu. Section 13. Duhetuka namma hetuka nancha paneta kriya javanani cheva appana javanani cha na labhanti tatha jnana sampayutali vipakani cha sugatiyam dugatiyam panajnana vipuyutani cha maha vipakani na labhanti ti hetukesu cha kina asavanam kusala javanani cha na labhatinti tatha sekha puthujananam kriya javanani Dithingata sampayuta vichikicha javanani cha sekhanam. Anagami pugalanam panapanigha javanani cha na labhanti. Lokutara javanani cha yathasakam ariyanam evam samupajantinti. Asekhanam chatuchatalisa sekhanam muddise chapanyasa vasesanam chatupanyasa sambhava ayam metha pugallabedo.
Classification of individuals. Classification of individuals. 13. Herein, to those whose rebirth consciousness is conditioned by 2 roots and conditioned by none, functional jhavanas and ecstatic jhavanas do not arise. Likewise, in a happy plane, resultants accompanied with knowledge also do not arise. But in a woeful state, they do not also get great resultants dissociated with knowledge. To the corruption-freed, or arahants, amongst those whose rebirth consciousness is conditioned by 3 roots, no moral and immoral jhavanas arise. Similarly, to the sekas and worldlings, functional jhavanas do not arise. Nor do the jhavanas connected with misbelief and doubts arise to the sekas. To the anagami individuals, there are no jhavanas connected with aversion. But the supramundane jhavanas are experienced only by aryas, according to their respective capacities. As they arise, it is stated that asekas experience 44, sekas 56, and the rest 54 classes of consciousness. Notes: 102. Namely, alobha and adosa. 103. It is only a tihetuka individual that could develop jhanas, or attain sainthood. 104. Owing to the inferiority of the rebirth consciousness, tihetuka tadalambanas do not arise. 105. Because they are eradicated on attaining sotapatti. 106. Because an anagami eradicates sense desires and aversion. 107. All the 4 classes of saints are called aryas because they are far removed from passions. 108. namely 18 ahetukas plus 16 sobhana kusala and vipaka, plus 9 rupa and arupa kusala vipaka, plus 1 arahata phala. 109. Namely, 7 akusalas plus 21, namely 8 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4 kusalas, plus 23 kamavachara vipakas, plus 2 avajanas, plus 3 phalas. 110. To worldlings, 54, namely 12 akusalas, plus 17 ahetukas, plus 16 sobhana kusala and vipakas, plus 9 rupa and arupa kusala vipakas.
Herein this is the classific action of individuals. Bhumi Bhedo.
Section on planes. Section 15. On the sense sphere, all these foregoing thought processes occur according to circumstances. On the plane of form, all with the exception of jhavanas connected with aversion and retentive moments. On the formless plane, all with the exception of the first path, rapavachara consciousness, smiling consciousness, and the lower arapa classes of consciousness. In all planes, to those who are devoid of sense organs, thought processes connected with corresponding doors do not arise. To the individuals without consciousness, there is absolutely no mental process whatsoever. Section 16. On the sense sphere, according to circumstances, 80 thought processes are obtained. On the plane of form, 64. On the formless plane, 42. Herein, this is the section on planes. Section on planes. Section 15. On the sense sphere, all these foregoing thought processes occur according to circumstances. On the plane of form, all with the exception of jhavanas connected with aversion and retentive moments. On the formless plane, all with the exception of the first path, rapavachara consciousness, smiling consciousness, and the lower arapa classes of consciousness. In all planes, to those who are devoid of sense organs, thought processes connected with corresponding doors do not arise. To the individuals without consciousness, there is absolutely no mental process whatsoever. Section 16. On the sense sphere, according to circumstances, 80 thought processes are obtained. On the plane of form, 64. On the formless plane, 42. Herein, this is the section on planes. Jhavana, 9:15. Tadaramana, 16 and 17. Immediately after this 5 sense door thought process, the stream of consciousness subsides into bhavanga. Then there arises a mind door thought process, perceiving the aforesaid visible object mentally as follows. Manodwarika viti. Manodwaravajana 1. Jhavana 2 to 8. Tadaramana 9, 10. Again, the stream of consciousness subsides into bhavanga, and 2 more similar thought processes arise before the object is actually known.
Panchadwara Chitta Vithi Ati Mahanta. Diagram number 9. Atita Bhavanga 1. Bhavanga Chalana 2. Bhavanga Upachcheda 3. Panchadvaravajjana 4. Chakhu Vinyana 5. Sampanichchana 6. Santirana 7. Vothappana 8.